Hi. Well, you may have just seen Democratic Congressman Al Green moments ago defending his decision to make the controversial hands up, don't shoot symbol on the floor of the House. Tonight, police groups and their supporters taking exception to that gesture. Neil Bruntrager and James Towie are both attorneys for now resigned police officer Darren Wilson. Mr. Bruntrager also represents the St. Louis Police Officers Association. Mr. Towie represents the Missouri Fraternal Order of Police. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Let me start with you on that. James, your thoughts and reaction to that interview?
Well, it was very interesting, and we sat here trying to take notes as quick as we could, and he kept wanting to say that there were other witnesses who testified differently. I think what's important in the witnesses that you were speaking about, they exactly told the same story that Darren Wilson told, and nobody heard that story except for the grand jury and the Justice Department. So the fact that those stories from those witnesses that were up there on Canfield that they matched exactly is more than significant.
Now, the prosecutor in Ferguson said the other witnesses to whom our guest was referring had conflicting testimony, they contradicted themselves and so on. And yet, I ask you, Neil, would anything satisfy the supporters of the Ferguson protesters, the supporters of Michael Brown's family, other than to have this cop's head on a silver platter?
You know, I don't know. I would hope so. I would hope that people would listen to the evidence that's out there. But I had to make one note, and this was the thing that I thought was perhaps the most telling. I was talking to a friend of mine today by the name of Russ Mason, and we were talking about this transparency question that has been raised and that the congressman raised in this instance. Yes, you could have gone to a judge on a preliminary hearing, and every witness would have had to testify in that preliminary hearing. But in doing that, there were a number of witnesses that it was crystal clear, if you've read the transcripts, were truly concerned about their safety. They were truly concerned that people would find out who they were. If you put those people in an open courtroom, you're putting them at risk, perhaps unnecessarily, and based upon ultimately the grand jury's decision in this case, it would have been unnecessary. You would put them at risk. Now, this transparency question goes a little bit further because everything that was done in that grand jury was transcribed. Now, that's unusual. That doesn't happen often. I'm a former prosecutor. I had an entire term in a grand jury. I ran a grand jury.
Right.
That doesn't happen very often, but occasionally it does. And what McCullough did here was he said, look, I'm going to take all my work and I'm going to put it out there for the
it was an
world to see.
unusual step. I want to get past that. I get it. That was an allegation he made. But let's get down to what effect this is having. Because it's fine. People can make their own judgments about what happened in Ferguson based on the evidence. Right. But this gets ignored. The fact that it was all African-American witnesses testifying against the story being told by Michael Brown's supporters, no one's talking about that. They're just saying it's this race thing where you know, the white cop was out to get the black now decedent, and there's no testimony about the fact that the white cop story was backed up by the black witnesses who came forward against their self-interest to take his side. And now we've got, James, you tell me, a police officer whose life is ruined. I mean, his career's over. He was forced to resign because you told him he's going to get shot. The first thing that's going to happen if he goes back out on the job is he's probably going to get shot.
Well, you know, he's such a good policeman, and his heart has always been in public service, and so he wanted to continue that. And it was interesting because he had this grandiose idea that that was actually going to be able to be possible, because I think in his heart of hearts, certainly in ours, we didn't feel that he would be indicted based on what we knew the facts to be. And I had to tell him, I said, well, you understand that your first call in Ferguson is going to go to a blind alley where you get executed. And he got wide-eyed and kind of had to think about it for a minute, and realizing what the sentiment of that community was, realized that, you know what, I'm not going back there ever.
And Megyn, can I throw in here? One of the things that is most troubling to me is the fact that we've adopted as a symbol of this particular event, this hands up, don't shoot, which is based upon a false narrative. I mean, the most discredited witness in this entire matter, no matter what side of the aisle you're on in this, you'd have to recognize that Dorian Johnson simply was not a credible witness. And that's where this came from.
And now,
so again, there are lots of conversations.
And now Darren Wilson's getting death threats. A man has just been charged for threats against Darren's life, and no one wants to hear the side of the story that supports him. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Up next, we're going to